The Zenith Confederation outpost on the edge of the galaxy hummed with its usual quiet efficiency. Officers, soldiers, and officials went about their routines, monitoring galactic traffic, enforcing the Confederation's rules, and managing a quiet corner of Zenith's vast empire. The outpost, known as Calax 9, served as a reminder of Zenith's iron grip on the galaxy, an unyielding power that had ruled for millennia, its influence reaching every species and star system within its borders. But tonight, something was different. The first sign was a power fluctuation, a small blip on the control room's screens, a faint anomaly detected by the sensors. Commander Valis, a tall, lean Valorian with piercing yellow eyes and a calculating demeanor, glanced at the screen with mild curiosity. Blips and anomalies were common in the fringes of the galaxy, usually caused by meteor activity or drifting space debris. But this reading was unusual. It was too structured, too controlled, as though it had purpose. "Any idea what that is?" Valis asked, his tone casual but edged with intrigue. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Archon, squinted at the monitor. "It doesn't match any known readings, sir, but it's emitting a faint energy signature, oddly stable for an anomaly." "Stable, you say?" Valis's eyes narrowed, his interest now piqued. "Activate long-range visuals. Let's get a look." The screen shifted, focusing on the coordinates of the anomaly. At first, the display was empty, a vast sea of darkness and stars. But then, slowly, something began to materialize from the blackness. A shape emerged, solid and ominous, its hull catching the faint starlight. The shape grew larger and clearer, resolving into a massive starship, unlike anything the Zenith had ever encountered. Silence fell over the control room as the officers stared at the display. The ship was sleek, yet intimidating, with a hull that looked almost alive, pulsing with energy. Intricate designs covered its surface, a mix of advanced engineering and an aesthetic that was both elegant and fearsome. Its sheer size dwarfed anything in the Confederation's fleet. "By the stars," Archon whispered, his voice tinged with awe. "Is that a human ship?" A murmur spread through the control room. Humans. The word had an almost mythical quality to it, a term from long-forgotten history lessons and cautionary tales. Humanity had been wiped from the galaxy over 3,000 years ago, deemed too dangerous, too unpredictable. The Confederation had ensured they were eradicated, their homeworld, Earth, destroyed in a final act of dominance. To most present-day Zenith officers, humans were a myth, a story to warn young cadets of the dangers of rebellion. And yet, here it was, a human ship. Commander Valis felt a chill run through him, a sensation he hadn't experienced in decades. Fear. There was something about the ship, the aura it radiated, that spoke of ancient power and barely contained rage. His instincts screamed at him to sound the alarm, to prepare for an attack, but he couldn't move, couldn't tear his gaze away from the screen. Then, the ship sent a signal, a single transmission, clear and direct. "This is Captain Aria Sloan of the starship Resolute Dawn. We are humanity, and we have returned." Her voice, strong and unyielding, echoed through the control room, carrying a quiet, chilling confidence that made the Zenith officers shift uncomfortably in their seats. This was not a voice pleading for mercy or asking for permission. This was a statement of fact, a declaration of intent. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. For a moment, the control room was silent, the officers too stunned to react. Then, as if broken from a trance, Commander Valis barked orders. "Raise shields. Prepare our defenses and alert the Confederation. We need reinforcements here immediately." As alarms blared throughout the outpost, the Resolute Dawn remained motionless, hovering just outside the reach of Calax 9's weapon systems, its presence an unspoken threat. Inside the ship, Captain Aria Sloan watched the Zenith outpost with a calm, measured gaze. The years of exile, the countless hours of preparation, the endless nights spent training and studying, this was what it had all been for. The moment humanity would emerge from the shadows, to face those who had tried to erase them. Her bridge was quiet, her crew focused and ready. They were the best of what humanity had managed to salvage, trained in secret colonies hidden in the dark voids of space, armed with knowledge and technology that had been honed over centuries. Each member of her crew carried the weight of Earth's destruction, their families' legacies, and the unbreakable will of a species that refused to die. "Captain," her Lieutenant Marcus Tan spoke up, his voice steady. "Zenith forces are mobilizing. They're signaling for reinforcements." "Good," Aria replied, her gaze never wavering. "Let them come. Let them see what humanity has become." She activated a holographic display, bringing up a detailed view of Calax 9 and the surrounding systems. Each Zenith fleet position was marked, as well as potential weaknesses. This was no random act of rebellion. Every move Aria made was calculated. Every decision a part of a larger strategy. They had waited 3,000 years for this, prepared for every possible response. Lieutenant Tan, prepare the stealth drones, she ordered. I want them to think we're a fleet, not a single ship. Marcus nodded, issuing commands with swift efficiency. The Resolute Dawn launched dozens of stealth drones, each projecting the illusion of multiple ships around Calax 9. The outpost's scanners struggled to keep up, their systems flooded with false readings, ghostly shadows of ships that weren't really there. On Calax 9, Commander Valis felt his heart race as his screens filled with blips, each one signaling what appeared to be a massive human fleet. Panic set in among his officers, their fear palpable as they tried to make sense of the data. Commander, we're detecting dozens of ships, possibly hundreds, an officer cried. This can't be possible. Valis clenched his jaw, his mind racing. Send out the distress call again. We need immediate support. But even as he spoke, the Resolute Dawn's true purpose began to unfold. The ship wasn't just there to intimidate, it was there to send a message to every corner of the Zenith Confederation. Humanity had returned, and they were no longer the hunted, no longer the scattered remnants hiding in the shadows. They were here, standing openly in the light, challenging the empire that had once brought them to the brink of extinction. Inside the Resolute Dawn, Aria watched the unfolding chaos on Calax 9's screens, satisfaction glinting in her eyes. She had sent her message, and now the galaxy would have no choice but to remember the name of humanity. Captain, Marcus said, his voice tinged with quiet awe. I think we have their attention. Aria's lips curved into a determined smile. Good. Let's give them a reason to fear the dark again. And as the Resolute Dawn loomed over Calax 9, its shadow casting a long, foreboding silhouette across the stars, the galaxy took its first uneasy breath, sensing the winds of change that had come with humanity's return. Captain Aria Sloan's face remained impassive as she stood on the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, watching the Zenith outpost scramble in chaos. Alarms blared across the display screens, and the desperate flurry of movement on Calax 9's deck signaled a mounting panic. Her message had been delivered. The galaxy now knew humanity was back, but the real work was only beginning. Status report, she commanded, her voice a calm anchor amid the tense atmosphere on her own bridge. Lieutenant Marcus Tan's fingers flew over his console as he ran diagnostics. Zenith defenses are at full power, Captain. They've raised their shields and locked down the perimeter. Reinforcements are already en route. 3 ships confirmed, likely battle cruisers from nearby stations. Aria nodded, her mind calculating rapidly. Good. Let them come. Let's test their defenses and see how much they've changed in 3,000 years. Beside her, Tactical Officer Eli Bensel stood poised, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. He was one of the finest tactical minds among her crew, a man who had spent his life studying Zenith military strategy and waiting for this moment. Ready for some fireworks, Captain? Only the beginning, Eli, she replied, her gaze locked on the enemy outpost. Deploy the distraction teams and begin phasing out our stealth drones. We'll keep them guessing until it's too late to react. Eli's smirk grew as he turned to his console, fingers dancing across the controls. The drones that had cloaked the Resolute Dawn in a veil of shadows shimmered, their projections dissolving into hundreds of false blips scattered across Calax 9's radar. Each blip represented an illusion, a phantom image of a ship that didn't exist, carefully crafted to create the appearance of a formidable human fleet. On Calax 9, the situation was devolving rapidly. Commander Valis paced furiously, his mind racing as he barked orders. The phantom blips overwhelmed their scanners, a chaotic swirl of signals that made it nearly impossible to locate the real human ship. What are they doing? An officer stammered, his voice quivering with fear. This doesn't make sense. They're toying with us. Valis clenched his fists, a deep-seated fear gnawing at his resolve. He had spent his career in Zenith service, believing in their invincibility. But this was beyond anything he'd been prepared for. The humans were supposed to be gone, a relic, a memory, and now they were back, wielding technology that seemed to defy everything he knew. Find their real position, Valis roared, his voice tinged with desperation. Get me a clear shot on their main vessel. But his words went unanswered, as his officers struggled with the readings, unable to isolate the true human ship among the myriad of ghost signals. Frustration built in Valis as the Zenith's once impenetrable control unraveled before his eyes. Back on the Resolute Dawn, Aria watched with satisfaction as Calax 9 descended further into disarray. She knew the Zenith Confederation prided itself on maintaining order and control, but it was clear they hadn't accounted for the disruptive power of humanity's tactics. They had adapted, evolved, learned to exploit the element of surprise in ways the Zenith couldn't comprehend. "Captain," Marcus said, his voice breaking through her thoughts. "Zenith reinforcements are closing in. They'll be in range within minutes." Aria nodded, her gaze sharpening. "Prepare to engage. Eli, give them a warm welcome." A gleam of excitement flashed in Eli's eyes as he activated the ship's primary weapons. The Resolute Dawn's forward plasma cannons hummed to life, their energy crackling with deadly precision. The human vessel may have been outnumbered, but it was far from defenseless. Humanity had spent millennia in exile, preparing for this moment, crafting weapons designed to counter Zenith technology, and Aria intended to show them exactly what her ship could do. As the first Zenith battlecruiser came into view, Eli targeted its shield generator, unleashing a concentrated burst of plasma. The bolt struck with pinpoint accuracy, and the battlecruiser shuddered, its shields flickering under the assault. Aria's crew watched as the Zenith forces reacted, scrambling to reinforce their defenses. The impact of the attack was a clear message. Humanity had not only returned, but come prepared for war. The Zenith cruiser retaliated, firing a volley of high-energy rounds in the direction of the Resolute Dawn. Aria barely flinched, her confidence unshaken as Eli maneuvered the ship with finesse, dodging the blasts with a calculated series of evasive maneuvers. This was more than just a skirmish. It was a display of dominance, a carefully orchestrated demonstration of human ingenuity and tactical prowess. Amid the tension, Aria's calm voice cut through the bridge. "Marcus, assess the Zenith forces. I want a full scan of their weapon systems and weak points. We're here to learn as much as we can before their full fleet arrives." Marcus nodded, fingers moving swiftly as he accessed the scanners. "Their technology is powerful, Captain, but it's outdated in some respects. Their shields are formidable, but their energy dispersion rates suggest a structural flaw in the power cores. They've optimized for endurance, but if we hit the cores directly, we could disable them faster." Aria's lips curved into a slight smile. "That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Target the cores and cripple their defenses. Let's show them just how prepared we are." As her crew carried out the orders, the Resolute Dawn danced around the Zenith forces, striking with precision and retreating just as quickly, exploiting every gap in their formations. The Zenith ships, despite their imposing size and strength, were caught off guard by the humans' agility and unorthodox tactics. Inside Calax 9, Commander Valis watched in mounting horror as his reinforcements struggled to gain the upper hand. Every time they closed in on the Resolute Dawn, the human ship evaded, striking from unexpected angles, leaving chaos in its wake. Valis could no longer ignore the truth staring him in the face. These humans were not the primitives they had once believed them to be. They were skilled, relentless, and worst of all, unpredictable. "Commander," an officer shouted, panic lacing his tone. "We're losing power to our shields, the human ship. It's exploiting our weak points." Valis gritted his teeth, fury and fear warring within him. "Send a message to the Confederation. We need additional support, or we'll lose Calax 9. As the officer relayed the message, a cold realization settled over Valis. Humanity had returned not just to survive, but to dominate, and they were bringing a fight the likes of which the Zenith Confederation had never anticipated. Back on the Resolute Dawn, Aria felt the thrill of the battle coursing through her veins. She had waited her entire life for this moment, and now, watching the Zenith forces falter, she knew she was fulfilling a promise made by generations of exiled humans. They were here to reclaim their place, to prove that they would not be erased. "Captain," Marcus said, a note of awe in his voice, "Calax 9 is sending out a distress signal to every nearby outpost. They're calling for reinforcements from the core sectors." Aria's eyes glinted with fierce satisfaction. "Perfect. Let them come. We'll take down as many of their ships as it takes for them to remember what humanity is capable of." With a final command, she directed her crew to prepare for the incoming waves of Zenith ships, the thrill of the coming battle evident on each face. They had waited in the shadows for centuries, but now, under Aria's leadership, humanity stood ready to make the galaxy tremble. And as the Resolute Dawn loomed over Calax 9, casting its shadow over the Zenith outpost, Aria knew they had only just begun. The Resolute Dawn held its position near Calax 9, a fortress of resilience as Zenith reinforcements converged from all sides. Aria watched the incoming waves of ships on her display, each red blip representing a new threat, but she felt no fear. This was precisely what she had planned for. The Confederation had believed humanity was extinct, scattered and powerless, but they were about to learn just how much they had underestimated their once-forgotten foe. "Status on reinforcements?" Aria asked, her voice steady. Lieutenant Marcus Tan leaned over his console, studying the latest readings. 4 more Zenith battlecruisers inbound. ETA 3 minutes. They're pulling resources from every nearby outpost to converge on us. It's massive, Captain. They're treating us like an existential threat. Aria allowed herself a brief, grim smile. Good. Let them think that. We're not just here to fight. We're here to unsettle their very foundation. She turned to Eli, her tactical officer, who was already adjusting the stealth drones and cloaking devices, creating layers of illusion and confusion for their attackers. "Eli, keep them guessing. The more we delay them, the more rattled they'll get. And while we're at it," she paused, her voice lowering, "let's see if any of our potential allies are willing to come out of hiding." Eli nodded, understanding the weight of her words. Humanity wasn't the only oppressed force in the galaxy. There were other species, smaller, less organized groups, who had suffered under Zenith rule. For centuries they had fought quietly, scattered rebellions that the Zenith had crushed with brutal efficiency. But with humanity's reappearance, Aria hoped to inspire them, to unite them in a way that had never been possible before. As Eli activated a coded transmission, Aria knew the message would reach every hidden corner of the galaxy. To oppressed species and rebel factions hiding in the shadows, it would say, "Humanity has returned, and we're ready to fight. Join us." "Captain, message sent," Eli confirmed, his expression serious. "Now we wait." Aria took a deep breath, feeling the weight of hope and expectation settle on her shoulders. She knew it was a gamble. These factions had been cowed for generations. Some might see humanity as a threat or remember Earth's old reputation for unpredictability and chaos, but if even a few responded, it could turn the tide in their favor. Just then, a low beep signaled an incoming communication. Marcus's face lit up as he glanced at the readout. "Captain, we're getting a response from the Narath resistance." Aria's heart leapt. The Narath were a small but fierce species, known for their guerrilla tactics against Zenith forces. They had been nearly exterminated in a conflict decades ago, but some had survived, hiding in the shadows and striking only when necessary. For them to respond now meant they believed humanity was more than just a fleeting memory. "Patch them through," Aria ordered, her voice steady. A flickering hologram appeared on the bridge, revealing a wiry, scarred Narath with sharp, calculating eyes. His face was marked with the distinct reddish tattoos of his people, symbols of resistance and survival. He looked at Aria with a mix of awe and wariness. "Captain Sloan," he greeted her, his voice rough yet respectful. "I am Commander Tharek of the Narath Resistance. Your return has caused quite a stir." Aria nodded, a respectful expression on her face. "Commander Tharek, thank you for responding. We're here to do more than make an appearance. We're here to make sure the Zenith Confederation pays for the suffering they've inflicted on all of us." Tharek's eyes flashed, a hint of bitterness evident in his tone. "The Zenith took everything from us. Our worlds, our people. We've been fighting alone for generations. But with your fleet," he paused, his voice filled with a mixture of hope and doubt. "If you're truly here to stay, we will join you." Aria held his gaze, her words deliberate and firm. "We're not going anywhere, Commander. Humanity has come back for good." A murmur spread among the crew as Tharek nodded, his expression one of fierce determination. "Then let's show them what we can do. My people have ships and fighters hidden in the asteroid fields of the Ilvron sector. We can be there in 20 minutes. Aria's heart surged with anticipation. "We'll coordinate our attack, Commander. Strike from the asteroids when you're ready, and we'll keep the Zenith forces occupied here." Tharek's hologram flickered, a grim smile crossing his face. "It's time the Zenith learned what true resistance looks like. We'll see you on the battlefield, Captain Sloan." As the communication cut off, Aria turned to her crew, a new energy filling the bridge. "You heard the commander. We have allies. Marcus, track the Narath's arrival in the Ilvron sector. Eli, coordinate the strike timing and make sure our cloaks are up. Let's keep the Zenith forces focused on us." The crew sprang into action, a surge of purpose evident in each movement. For so long they had worked in the shadows, training, preparing, but this was different. They were no longer fighting alone. Just then, a warning light flashed on the main console. Another signal, a new communication. "Captain," Marcus called, his voice tinged with disbelief. "We're getting another response, this one from the Vithari insurgents." The Vithari were a rare sight, even in the Zenith Confederation. They were a mysterious species, known for their telepathic abilities and elusive movements. Unlike the Narath, they had never officially opposed the Confederation, but they had also never pledged loyalty to it. If they were reaching out, it meant the Confederation had more enemies than anyone realized. Aria nodded at Marcus. Patch them through. A translucent hologram appeared, revealing a tall, slender Vithari. His skin shimmered with an otherworldly iridescence, his eyes fathomless and intense. He regarded Aria with a silent, probing gaze, his expression unreadable. "Captain Sloan," he said finally, his voice echoing with an eerie calm. "We have watched from the edges, observing your people and their struggles. The Vithari do not often ally themselves with others, but humanity's return has changed things." Aria returned his gaze with unwavering intensity. "Then join us. Together, we have a chance to end the Confederation's stranglehold on the galaxy." The Vithari inclined his head slightly, a gesture of agreement. "We will send our forces to aid you, but know this: if you abandon this cause, we will not forgive such betrayal." Aria met his gaze without flinching. "We won't falter. Humanity has waited 3,000 years for this. We don't plan on stopping now." The Vithari nodded, the faintest hint of respect in his expression. "Then we will see you on the battlefield, Captain." The hologram faded, and Aria turned back to her crew, who were now buzzing with a mixture of excitement and awe. They weren't just facing the Zenith forces, they were gathering allies, weaving a network of resistance that would shake the Confederation to its core. As the Resolute Dawn held its position near Calax 9, Aria's strategy was coming together. She had planned for this, dreamed of it, and now the moment had arrived. Humanity was no longer a solitary voice in the dark. They had lit a fire, one that would spread across the galaxy, uniting those who had suffered in silence. "Eli, prepare the fleet for coordinated strikes," she ordered, her voice brimming with resolve. "Marcus, monitor communications. This alliance will hold, and together, we'll make the Zenith remember what fear feels like." Her words resonated across the bridge, a promise of victory. The Confederation was about to face a force it had never anticipated, a united front led by humanity, and fueled by the courage of those who refused to be forgotten. And as the Resolute Dawn loomed over Calax 9, Aria knew they had only just begun. The Resolute Dawn drifted quietly in the void, its position just outside the Confederation's scanning range, as it coordinated with the Narath and Vithari forces. The alliance had formed faster than Aria could have hoped, but she knew they needed more than a united front. They needed to strike where the Zenith Confederation was most vulnerable. The Lost Forges, humanity's hidden bases scattered across the galaxy, were about to become the centerpiece of their next move. "Captain, Narath and Vithari forces are reporting in," Marcus said, eyes focused on his console as he relayed the latest intel. "The Vithari are sending in cloaked ships from the Ilvran sector, and the Narath are mobilizing their fighters around the asteroid belt." Aria nodded, her gaze hard and determined. "Good. They'll be the shield we need to pull this off. But they're just the first line." She leaned forward, her tone low and fierce. "It's time to reveal the Lost Forges. Eli, patch me through to all allied ships." Eli activated the channel, and the bridge's comms filled with static as the Vithari, Narath, and newly joined resistance factions tuned in. Aria took a breath, her voice firm as she addressed them. "This is Captain Aria Sloan. I know many of you have waited years, decades even, for a chance to strike back at the Zenith Confederation. You've suffered, you've lost, but today, we have the chance to change everything. Humanity has built hidden bases across the galaxy, known only to us as the Lost Forges. These aren't just bunkers, they're strongholds, armed with weapons and technology that have been waiting for this moment." A murmur rippled through the channels, disbelief and excitement mingling in the voices of their allies. To hear that humanity had survived, hidden and fortified, was already a shock, but now Aria was revealing that they had weapons, tools of resistance that could stand against the might of Zenith. "Our target is the Zenith fleet guarding the access point to one of the largest Lost Forges," Aria continued, her voice calm and unyielding. "If we succeed, we'll have enough firepower to strike at the very heart of the Confederation. We're not just fighting for survival, we're fighting to end their tyranny once and for all." Her words hung in the silence that followed, each ally processing the weight of their mission. Then, one by one, acknowledgements came through. First from the Narath, their voices crackling with anticipation, then the Vithari, calm and resolute. The alliance was ready. As her crew finalized preparations, Aria's mind raced through every detail of the plan. She knew the Confederation would not go down easily. The Zenith fleet was massive, relentless, and despite their arrogance, not without skill. Their strongest ships were stationed near the Lost Forges, guarding access to what they believed to be empty stretches of space. Little did they know, they were about to face the most dangerous ambush of their lives. "Captain, Zenith forces are entering scanning range," Marcus reported. "Looks like they're sending 2 of their main battle cruisers and a small fleet of support vessels. They're larger than expected." Aria allowed herself a small smile. "All the better. Let them see just what we've been hiding." The view on the display changed, showing the approaching Zenith fleet in sharp detail. The battle cruisers were massive, intimidating ships, their hulls plated with reinforced alloy and armed with weapons that could obliterate smaller vessels in seconds. Behind them came the support vessels. Fast, maneuverable, designed to engage enemies in swift surgical strikes, but Aria had no intention of meeting them head-on. "Eli, initiate cloaking procedures for the Dawn. Marcus, alert our allies. As soon as the Zenith ships are in range, we'll strike their engines and split their formation." The bridge fell silent as each member of the crew focused, hands steady on controls, faces tense with determination. They'd trained for this moment, rehearsed every maneuver, every contingency, and now the plan was unfolding in real time. The Resolute Dawn's engines hummed softly as the cloaking field enveloped the ship, rendering it nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. Around them, Narath and Vithari ships moved into position, their own cloaking systems activated, forming a hidden perimeter around the Zenith forces. The Zenith fleet moved closer, oblivious to the trap that awaited them. As they passed into the ambush zone, Aria's eyes flashed with a fierce light. "Now!" she commanded, her voice sharp as steel. In an instant, the Narath ships burst from the asteroid belt, their fighters diving straight for the Zenith battlecruisers, unleashing a barrage of plasma rounds that caught the enemy off guard. The Vithari followed suit, their cloaked ships emerging from the shadows, flanking the support vessels and tearing through their formations with deadly precision. The Zenith ships reeled, their organized lines crumbling under the sudden assault. The battlecruisers' engines flared as they attempted to regroup, but the Narath fighters stayed on them, relentless in their attacks. "Captain," Eli reported, eyes shining with excitement, "we're reading severe damage to one of the Zenith battlecruisers' engines. Their mobility is compromised." Aria's lips curved into a predatory smile. "Perfect. Let's show them what humanity's capable of. Target their command center and bring them down." With a smooth, calculated motion, Eli directed the Resolute Dawn's plasma cannons, unleashing a torrent of energy that struck the lead battlecruiser squarely in its core. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the ship, its hull buckling under the force. Explosions burst along its length, and the once mighty vessel began to list, its weapons sputtering and failing. The Zenith crew aboard the battlecruiser fought desperately to regain control, but it was futile. One by one, their support systems failed, and in a final, spectacular blaze, the battlecruiser went dark, a smoldering husk adrift in space. Around them, the other Zenith ships faltered, their formations breaking as they witnessed the fall of their flagship. But Aria knew they would not give up easily. "Marcus, any word from the Lost Forges?" she asked, voice steady but tense. Marcus glanced up from his console, a grin spreading across his face. "Yes, Captain. They've received our signal and are powering up. We'll have backup weaponry in 2 minutes." Aria's heart pounded as the Lost Forges came online, their hidden defenses charging with an energy that had been dormant for millennia. This was humanity's legacy, the culmination of years of hiding, preparing, and waiting. The Lost Forges weren't just bases. They were humanity's final stand, a testament to their refusal to be forgotten. Around them, the battle raged on. The remaining Zenith forces fought with everything they had, but the coordinated strikes from the Alliance, combined with the sheer power of the Lost Forges, overwhelmed them. One by one, the Zenith ships fell, their formidable armor no match for the concentrated might of the combined forces. Finally, as the last Zenith vessel went dark, a quiet settled over the battlefield. The Lost Forges gleamed in the background, their power restored, their purpose fulfilled. Aria took a deep breath, the weight of victory mingling with the lingering sorrow for those lost. "Captain," Eli said quietly, "we did it." Aria nodded, her gaze fixed on the remnants of the Zenith fleet. "This is just the beginning. They'll come back stronger and more determined. But now they know we're here." With the Lost Forges activated, and the Zenith Confederation's forces in disarray, humanity had made its stand. They were no longer hidden in the shadows, no longer remnants of a forgotten past. They were warriors, survivors, and as long as they stood united, the galaxy would know their name. As the Resolute Dawn drifted quietly among the wreckage of the Zenith fleet, Aria knew they had won a significant battle, but not yet the war. She turned her gaze toward the star system on her display, where the Zenith Confederation's core stronghold loomed in the distance, a fortress rumored to be impenetrable and heavily guarded. This was where the Confederation's leaders orchestrated their domination of the galaxy, their rule maintained by fleets, laws, and fear. "Captain, reports from our allies are pouring in," Marcus announced, glancing up from his console. "The Narath and Vithari are regrouping, but they're ready to press on if we give the order." Aria nodded, her mind racing as she considered their options. The Zenith had surely received word of the battle's outcome by now, and they would be mobilizing everything they had to protect the core stronghold. To strike at it directly would be the ultimate challenge, but humanity's return was never meant to be easy. They had come to make a statement that couldn't be ignored. "Patch me through to all allied channels," Aria commanded, her voice steady with resolve. A few seconds later, the channel buzzed to life, connecting her with the captains and commanders of the Narath, Vithari, and other scattered resistance groups who had rallied under her banner. Aria's gaze swept over the faces of her allies, each one carrying a mix of exhaustion, determination, and fierce loyalty. She took a deep breath, letting her words carry the weight of their collective struggle. "We've dealt a blow to the Zenith today," she began, her voice firm but calm. "But this victory is only the beginning. The Confederation won't rest until they've crushed us, and every world that dares to stand with us. They'll call for reinforcements, bring in their heaviest defenses, and try to erase this uprising before it can grow." She paused, letting her words sink in, watching the hardened expressions of her allies. "But I say we take this fight to their doorstep. We're not just here to survive. We're here to make sure that no one suffers under their rule again. Together, we'll show the galaxy that the Confederation's days are numbered." A murmur of agreement rippled through the channel. Commander Tharek of the Narath Resistance gave a fierce nod. "We've waited our whole lives for this chance, Captain. The Narath will fight by your side until the end." Beside him, the Vithari emissary inclined his head, a quiet strength evident in his steady gaze. "The Vithari stand with you, Captain Sloan. We have endured too long in silence." Aria felt a swell of pride, knowing the courage it took for these people to trust her, to risk everything in pursuit of freedom. With a final nod, she ended the transmission, turning her focus back to her own crew. "Prepare the Resolute Dawn for the final approach," she said, her tone unwavering. "The Zenith stronghold is our target. We'll coordinate with our allies, strike as one, and take down their defenses from within." Eli's eyes lit up with anticipation as he began relaying instructions to the tactical teams, coordinating the fighters and ensuring every weapon was primed for the confrontation ahead. Marcus ran calculations, monitoring the positions of Allied forces as they moved into formation. The plan was set. The combined fleet would arrive at the edge of the Zenith stronghold, using a series of cloaked ships to mask their approach. The Narath fighters would strike first, diverting attention from the larger vessels, while the Vithari would target specific weak points in the Confederation's outer defenses. The Resolute Dawn would lead the charge through the perimeter, breaking the Confederation's shield array and allowing the rest of the fleet to push through. As they approached the edge of the Zenith stronghold, Aria felt the weight of their mission settle on her shoulders. This was it, the culmination of centuries of hiding, planning, and waiting. Humanity's resurgence would either reach its apex here or be crushed before it could ignite the spark of rebellion across the galaxy. "Captain," Marcus said, his voice low but steady, "we're reaching the perimeter. Their defenses are coming online." "Good," Aria replied. "Let's make sure they know exactly who they're dealing with." On her command, the Narath fighters broke away from the main fleet, darting toward the stronghold in a flurry of evasive maneuvers. Zenith defenses activated, turrets swiveling to track the fast-moving targets. Plasma bolts lit up the darkness as the Narath ships drew the initial wave of fire, creating an opening for the larger vessels. As the Narath fighters engaged, the Vithari ships followed, their cloaking devices allowing them to slip through the perimeter unnoticed. They targeted key power nodes along the stronghold's shield array, delivering precision strikes that weakened the Confederation's defensive network. The shield flickered and dimmed, patches of vulnerability appearing across the perimeter. "Now!" Aria commanded, her voice filled with urgency. The Resolute Dawn surged forward, plasma cannons blazing as it breached the weakened shield array. The rest of the fleet followed, ships pouring through the opening, each one striking at the heart of the Confederation's defenses. Explosions rippled through the Zenith ranks, their ships scrambling to respond to the sudden coordinated assault. Inside the Resolute Dawn, Aria gripped the armrest of her command chair, her gaze locked on the stronghold looming ahead. It was a colossal structure, bristling with weaponry and reinforced by layers of defense. To the untrained eye, it seemed impenetrable, but Aria had studied its layout for years. She knew exactly where to strike. "Eli, target the central power core," she ordered. "We take that down, and their entire stronghold will go dark." Eli's fingers danced over his console, locking onto the coordinates of the power core. "Target acquired, Captain. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The Resolute Dawn's main plasma cannon fired, a concentrated burst of energy that struck the stronghold's core with devastating precision. The impact was immediate, rippling through the structure, short-circuiting systems and sending shockwaves across the facility. One by one, the lights dimmed, the hum of energy fading as the stronghold's defenses faltered. But the Zenith Confederation was not so easily defeated. A final line of warships emerged from the depths of the stronghold, formidable and armed with prototype weaponry that Aria had only heard of in rumors. These ships moved with deadly precision, closing in on the Resolute Dawn and its allies, their intentions clear. "Captain, incoming," Marcus warned, his voice tense. Aria's mind raced. She knew they couldn't withstand a prolonged fight against the Zenith's finest. Desperation drove her to make a risky decision. "Eli, initiate the Dawn's cloaking mechanism. We're going to draw their fire while our allies make their final strike on the stronghold." "But Captain, that'll leave us vulnerable," Eli protested. Aria met his gaze, her expression resolute. "If we don't take this chance, we lose everything. Trust me." Eli hesitated, then nodded, his trust in her absolute. The Resolute Dawn shimmered, its cloaking device activating just as the Zenith warships fired. Plasma bolts shot through the darkness, narrowly missing as the Dawn darted through the battlefield, a ghostly shadow drawing the attention of the enemy. Meanwhile, the Narath and Vithari seized the opening, launching their final assault on the core stronghold. Explosions erupted across the structure, the combined forces of humanity and its allies ripping through the Zenith's final defenses. Finally, as the last warship went dark and the stronghold crumbled, a quiet settled over the battlefield. The Zenith Confederation's core fortress had fallen, its power shattered. Aria slumped back in her chair, exhaustion mingling with an overwhelming sense of victory. They had done it. The Zenith Confederation, the force that had once nearly obliterated humanity, had been brought to its knees, and as her allies cheered, Aria allowed herself a rare smile, knowing they had changed the galaxy forever. The battlefield lay silent as the final fires burned out, casting a dim glow over the wreckage of the Zenith stronghold. The once imposing structure, the hub of power and control that had dominated the galaxy for millennia, was now reduced to a twisted shell of metal and debris. Aria Sloan stood on the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, looking out over the remnants of what had once been the heart of the Zenith Confederation's empire. They had won. Around her, the faces of her crew reflected the same exhaustion and pride she felt. This victory had come at a cost. They had lost ships, allies, friends, but they had done it. The Confederation's grip was broken, and the galaxy was finally free from the tyranny that had oppressed countless civilizations for generations. "Status report," she called, her voice rough with weariness, yet carrying a determined edge. Lieutenant Marcus Tan scanned his console, his gaze taking in the damage and survivor reports. "Allied forces are regrouping, Captain. The Narath and Vithari are recovering their wounded and assessing casualties. The remaining Zenith ships are retreating to the outer sectors, likely seeking refuge now that the stronghold has fallen." Aria nodded, absorbing the information. The war wasn't entirely over. There would be remnants of the Zenith forces that would refuse to surrender, seeking to regroup and rebuild. But for now, this battle had ended, and they had accomplished what had once seemed impossible. "Captain," Marcus continued, his voice softening, "the crew is requesting permission to transmit a message to the galaxy. They want the worlds under Zenith rule to know what's happened here." Aria felt a surge of pride, knowing the impact of such a message. The galaxy had been waiting in the dark, oppressed under Zenith rule for centuries, with little hope of change. This victory was more than just a battle won. It was a beacon for those who had waited, who had fought in silence, who had lost and endured. "Do it," she said, her tone resolute. "Let them know they're free." As Marcus transmitted the message across the galaxy, Aria closed her eyes for a brief moment, allowing herself to feel the weight of what they had achieved. She thought of Earth, long lost, of the stories of their ancestors who had once called that distant planet home. She thought of the generations who had survived in the shadows, building, waiting, preparing. They had been a scattered, exiled people, yet here they were, standing victorious. The bridge's comms crackled to life, breaking her reverie. It was Commander Tharek of the Narath Resistance, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. "Captain Sloan," he greeted her, respect evident in his tone. "Today marks a turning point. The Narath have long fought alone, but with you, with humanity, we have found strength. For that, we thank you." Aria smiled, feeling the depth of his words. "Thank you, Commander Tharek. This was a joint effort, and it's only the beginning. We've struck a blow to the Zenith Confederation, but we still have work to do. The galaxy needs rebuilding, and we need to ensure that no power like the Confederation rises again." Tharek nodded, his face grim yet hopeful. "You have our loyalty, Captain. Wherever you lead, we will follow." The transmission ended, and a new face appeared on the screen, the Vithari emissary who had lent his people's power to the fight. His iridescent skin shimmered softly, his voice resonating with quiet intensity. "Captain Sloan, the Vithari have watched the rise and fall of many powers, but we have never seen resilience like that of your people. Humanity's return has inspired many, and we will honor the alliance we've built here today." Aria inclined her head, acknowledging his words. "The Vithari's strength and wisdom have been invaluable. Together, we've shown the galaxy what's possible. May we continue to build, not just destroy." With that, the Vithari emissary's image faded, and the bridge fell silent once more. Aria could feel the solemn pride radiating from her crew. They had changed the course of history, and the galaxy would never be the same. As the moments of reflection settled around her, Aria knew she had one final task. She turned to Marcus and Eli, her steady right hands through this entire mission. "Marcus, open a galaxy-wide channel," she instructed. "This message isn't just for our allies, it's for everyone. Every world that's been under Zenith control, every species that's been silenced. They all need to hear this." Eli activated the comms, and a small light on the console flashed, indicating that the message was live, broadcasting to billions of sentients across the galaxy. Aria took a steadying breath, choosing her words carefully. This wasn't just a declaration of victory, it was a call to action, to all species, to every planet and every system. She began, her voice strong and clear. "I am Captain Aria Sloan of the Resolute Dawn. Today, humanity has returned. We have fought alongside the brave Narath, the wise Vithari, and countless others who dared to stand with us. Today, the Zenith Confederation has fallen." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in, imagining the millions who would hear this and realize their oppression was over. But this victory isn't just for humanity, or for those who joined us in battle. This victory belongs to every being who has suffered, who has been silenced, who has endured under Zenith rule. Aria's gaze hardened as she spoke the next words, her tone fierce with conviction. "To the remnants of the Zenith Confederation, we do not seek revenge. We seek justice. We will not allow another power to rise and inflict the same pain that you have spread across the galaxy. Today, we declare a new era, one where no voice is silenced, where no world is oppressed." Her voice softened as she continued, the weariness and determination blending in a single moment. "And to those who have fought in secret, who have waited and hoped, know that you are not alone. Humanity has returned, and we are here to stay." The channel cut off, her words left echoing in the minds of her crew and across the galaxy. She could feel the enormity of what they had achieved settling over her. This victory was not just about reclaiming power, it was about laying the foundation for a future where freedom was possible, where every species had a voice. As she turned to face her crew, Aria saw the pride in their eyes, the realization that they had fought not just for themselves, but for countless others. They had become more than a symbol of survival. They were champions of justice, a beacon of hope. Marcus stepped forward, his voice quiet but filled with respect. "Captain, the crew would like to know, what now?" Aria took a breath, allowing herself a rare moment of contemplation. "Now, we rebuild. We help the worlds the Zenith Confederation left broken, and we make sure no one ever endures what we did. The fight isn't over, but it has changed." The Resolute Dawn's engines hummed softly, signaling the beginning of a new journey. They would move from world to world, offering aid, forming alliances, and ensuring that the hope they had ignited would not fade. Humanity's return was more than a reclaiming of their place. It was a promise to the galaxy. As the Resolute Dawn set course for the next planet in need, Aria stood on the bridge, gazing out at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the wreckage of war, lay the galaxy's future, a future she was determined to shape, not with weapons, but with unity. And so, With the remnants of the Confederation scattering into the shadows and a new era on the horizon, Aria knew that humanity had not just returned, they had redefined what it meant to be strong. Together with their allies, they would ensure that the legacy of this victory would echo through the stars for generations to come.